Hello, welcome to Module 23 of the course on Application of Spectroscopic Methods in Molecular Structure Determination. In this module, we will consider MALDI spectroscopy, but before we go to MALDI spectroscopy, I want to demonstrate an important application of electrospray ionization mass spectrometry in a while. Now we all know thin layer chromatography is used for analyzing reaction mixtures. However complex the reaction mixture can be, it can be analyzed by TLC separation. Essentially TLC is used for separation of mixtures, and a nanogram to picogram amount of material is present in each spot on the TLC. Now the question is it possible to analyze the TLC spots using electrospray ionization mass spectrometry? Now it is possible because the electrospray ionization gun can be focused onto the TLC plate, and using a computer controlled XYZ positioners, the spots on the TLC plates can be ionized. Remember, a TLC plate is coated with non-volatile silica or alumina as the supporting material, so they do not get disturbed during the process of the electrospray ionization mass spectrometry done on a TLC plate. The compound on each TLC spot is identified through a mass spectrum. So this is a diagrammatic representation of how TLC plate is analyzed using electrospray ionization mass spectrometry. This is a TLC plate which is mounted onto the XYZ positioner, which is computer controlled. So there is a possibility of moving this in the XYZ direction with the resolution of micrometer kind of a resolution. One movement can be carried out. The electrospray ionization nozzle is brought very close to the particular spot on the TLC plate, and the solvent is sprayed onto the TLC plate, and this droplets that hit the solvent takes the sample that is spotted on the particular sample on that spot, and they get ionized and they are injected into the mass spectrometer, which is shown schematically. This is the actual picture of the TLC plate, where there is a colored substance on the TLC plate, and the electrospray ionization injector is focused onto that particular spot here. Now here is an example of analysis of three different dyes. We have dye which is yellow in color, which is labeled as 7 here. There is another dye which is greenish blue in color, there are two kinds of dyes in this particular spot, and there is another dye which is magenta color or slightly purplish color in this particular region of the TLC plate. Now if you select the mass of these dyes and run a chromatogram kind of a thing, you will see when the mass is selected to compound number 4, which is this one, for example 834, that gives a maximum peak around the distance of about 20 millimeter of the TLC plate, which corresponds to this. But you can see here from 0 to 22 millimeter is the TLC plate length, and around 21 millimeter or so this part is there, which corresponds to molecular weight of 834 here. Now as the distance of the TLC plate is moved from one spot to another spot, each one of the spot is analyzed by the electrospray ionization mass spectrometer. For example, this is the electrospray ionization mass spectrum of compound 7, which is this yellow color substance, which in an azo dye is a sulfonic acid derivative, and you can see, for example, the molecular weight is 407. There is a peak which is a base peak at 407, then 407 plus the sodium ion, which is 23, corresponding to 429, which is this 429 peak is also seen in the electrospray ionization mass spectrum. Now spot number blue spot is essentially a combination of two dyes. The dye structures are shown here. For example, there is a green dye which is called dye number 5, and there is another blue dye which is called dye number 5. Essential difference between these two dyes is the R group is either phenolic OH group or hydrogen. These are the difference in the molecular formula of these two dyes, and one can see, for example, the molecular formula corresponding to R is equal to OH has a peak around 381 for triply protonated compound, and that corresponds to a molecular weight of M by Z 763, which is 2 hydrogen. In other words, this is a monocationic species and this is a dicationic species. That is why molecular weight is exactly half of the molecular weight of 763. You see 763 as well as 381 corresponding to the monocationically charged and a dicationically charged compound of this particular dye. Dye number 6, which is a blue color dye, has a molecular weight of 373 and 747. The molecular weight is actually 747. The doubly charged ion comes at 373. So one can see 373 as well as 747, which is the molecular weight of this particular peak. Lastly, the red color dye, which is this particular dye, this has 4 iodine atoms. It is a fairly large molecular weight compound, 834, and that is essentially seen as one single peak at 834 corresponding to the molecular ion of this particular compound. So this is analysis of a mixture of dyes. Here the constituents of a common painkiller called Excedrin. This is available in the market, and the Excedrin has 3 different molecules which are caffeine, acetaminophen and aspirin. Aspirin and acetaminophen are analgesic in nature. Caffeine is essentially a stimulant, so this is a mixture that is present in Excedrin. The TLC analysis essentially shows 3 spots, spot number 8, spot number 9 and spot number 10 corresponding to compound number 8, 9 and 10, which are marked here, for example. Now this is the total chromatogram of this particular compound detected with certain molecular weight. So around 9 millimeter from the base you have the compound number 8, which is this caffeine. So this corresponds to the molecular weight of caffeine, for example. This corresponds to the molecular weight of acetaminophen, and this corresponds to the molecular weight of aspirin in this particular case. So the individual mass spectra are shown here corresponding to compound number 8 with a molecular weight of 195, and the sodium adduct is 217. So 195 is the base peak, 217 is also a fairly intense peak. On the other hand, acetaminophen has a molecular weight of 152 and the sodium adduct is about 174. So 152 and 174 are clearly seen here, and the aspirin has a molecular weight of 203 and the sodium adduct minus 2 sodiums and a proton corresponds to 225. So 225 and the molecular ion peak at 203 are also very clearly seen. So these examples essentially demonstrate the versatility of thin layer chromatography combination with electrospray ionization mass spectrometry, how effectively this combination can be used for direct identification of organic compounds that are adsorbed onto a TLC plate, which are separated by eluting the TLC plate. Now we will go to the other most important mass spectrometry technique, namely the matrix assisted laser desorption ionization mass spectrometry as ionization source and time of flight as an analyzer in this particular mass spectral ionization analyzer combination of mass spectrometer. The good resource for material for the MALDI spectrometry is the 2 reviews that are given here. One is published in Analytical Chemistry in 2000. The other one is published in Rapid Communication in Mass Spectrometry in 1988. Both of them are good sources of information as far as the matrix assisted laser desorption ionization mass spectrometry in combination with the time of flight analyzer for the mass spectrometry. Now the basic principle is very simple. The sample is mixed with a matrix and it is kept on a plate, and a laser light is shine on the sample, upon which the sample actually gets desorbed and the matrix actually gets desorbed along with the sample, and during the process of desorption the ionization takes place, typically by a proton transfer from the matrix to the substrate that is investigated, and differently protonated substrate molecules are flying. As a result of that, they enter the time of flight analyzer. In the time of flight analyzer, the basic principle is that smaller the ion, it moves faster, larger the ion, it moves slower. So the ions get separated in a field-free drift zone in the time of flight analyzer, and one by one the ions get detected in the mass spectrometer. Now the molecules that are used as matrix in MALDI spectrometry is given here. The list is given here. Most of them are acids in nature and they have a UV visible absorption, and they are essentially used for the analysis of peptides, nucleotides, protein, lipids and so on. Different applications are shown here. The important aspect is that these molecules, they absorb UV light, which is the laser light. They get excited. In the excited states, actually these are much stronger acid than in the ground state. It's one of the reasons from the excited state of this molecule, a proton can be easily transferred onto the substrate, thereby ionizing the substrate, resulting in the formation of the ions that are produced in the gas phase for analysis. This is an important aspect of MALDI mass spectrometry. The characteristic features of a good MALDI matrix are given in this particular slide. They are fairly low molecular weight compound, so that it allows fissile vaporization upon impingement with a laser light, but they are large enough not to have a very large vapor pressure, so that they don't evaporate from during the sample preparation or while standing in the spectrometer. This is extremely important. They should be low molecular weight so that they don't interfere with the mass analysis of other compounds. At the same time, they should have sufficiently large, they should not have extremely low vapor pressure to evaporate at room temperature and so on. They are generally acidic in nature, therefore as a proton source they encourage the ionization of the analyte. In other words, proton transfer takes place from the excited matrix to the analyte or the substrate that needs to be analyzed. As a result of that, the charged ions are produced in the MALDI spectrometry. They have a strong optical absorption in the UV, so that they rapidly and efficiently absorb the laser light and get dissolved into the gas phase. This is also extremely important. They have to absorb the UV light of the laser. They are functionalized with the polar groups, allowing them to be used as aqueous solution. In other words, during the sample preparation, they can be dispersed either in a polar solvent like acetonitrile or polyethylene glycol kind of a sample, or they can be simply dissolved in water and aqueous solution can be plated onto the MALDI spectrometer. The lasers that are normally used are shown here. As you can see here, they can be either ultraviolet lasers, they can be near infrared lasers, or far infrared lasers also can be used for this purpose. And typically nitrogen laser is what is used in most of the MALDI spectrometer. Sometimes YAG laser is also used. The second harmonic and the fourth harmonic generations of the YAG laser are used for this particular purpose. Let us look into the basic principle of the time of flight mass analyzer. After the ions are generated, they are generally accelerated into the field free drift zone, which is known as the flight tube, or the time of flight tube is what is given, and the samples are sent in the form of a pulse. Why is sent as a pulse? Because that ensures the same kinetic energy for all the ions that goes into the analyzer, because in the analyzer there is no electric field or anything that is controlling the movement of the ions. The ions are essentially drifting on their own kinetic energy, and such that the lighter ions move faster than the heavier ones. This is the basic principle of the separation. As they travel, the ions get separated based on their mass to charge ratio. Lighter ions travel faster than the heavier ions. In practice, all ions do not possess the same kinetic energy. This could be a limitation in terms of lowering the resolution of the spectrum that you see. So it is better to make sure that all the ions have sufficiently the same kinetic energy, so that during the field free drift region, they use the mass to charge ratio as a means of separation rather than the differential in the kinetic energy for means of separation. When there is a lower resolution, there is an option available to have the ions refocused using a reflectron. This will be explained in the next slide using a diagram. The reflectron essentially consists of a series of electric field which repels the ions back into the drift zone at an angle, and thereby they have same kinetic energy during the course of the drift. So here is a source of ions which is produced by the shooting the laser onto the matrix, and the samples get ionized, for example, and the samples get into the gas phase. And you can see here, this is the field free drifting zone, which is the time of flight tube, for example. So the lighter ions travel faster because they have the same kinetic energy, but the mass by charge ratio is small, so they move faster compared to heavier ions, which although have the same kinetic energy, because of the mass they have a lower velocity, and as a result of that they do not move fast in this particular field free zone. And if they don't have a reflectron, essentially they will be going to a linear detector and get detected, and under this condition maybe a low resolution spectrum can be obtained. However, in a reflectron mode, you have the electric field applied here, so that these get deflected and they are sent back in another field free zone under vacuum, so that in the reflectron detector it is detected. In other words, to ensure the same kinetic energy of the various ions, this particular methodology is adopted. This is called the reflectron technology, and this particular methodology ensures the higher resolution of the spectrum that you see in certain MALDI spectrometers. Now in the time of flight analyzer, the basic principle is like this. The potential energy of a charged particle in an electric field is related to the charge of the particle times the strength of the electric field. In other words, this is the potential energy which corresponds to Z, which is charge of the particular ion, and the electric field, which is U in this particular case. When the charged particle is accelerated in the time of flight tube, the potential energy gets converted into the kinetic energy. So essentially kinetic energy is half mv square. So if we equate the ZU into the half mv square, this is the expression that one gets by equating the potential energy to be same as the kinetic energy. Now the velocity is essentially distance by time. So one can solve this equation by substituting velocity to be distance by time. You have this particular expression where mv square, the v is replaced by d by t here, so d by t square. So if you rearrange this particular equation, essentially gets the time, that is the flight time, corresponding to the m by z, square root of m by z times some constant. What is this constant? We will see in a moment. That since the time taken by each ion to reach the detector is proportional to the square root of m by z of the ion, smaller ions reach faster compared to larger ion. This is the basic principle of time of flight mass spectrometry, and this is the expression that you saw with certain constant times m by z the whole power half, square root of m by z is what you see. So let us say, for example, a mass of 1000 Dalton is given. This is the atomic mass unit in kilogram, in other words kilograms per Dalton. 1.67 10 to the power minus 23 kilogram per Dalton is the atomic mass unit, and this is the Coulombic charge. 1.602 10 to the power minus 19 is the charge on an electron. That corresponds to a monopositive charge corresponding to that particular ion. And this is in a voltage application of about 15,000 volt is what is used for the acceleration of the ions in the kinetic energy producing voltage is what is given here, and the flight tube has a length of about 1.5 meter. So these are essentially constant as far as the measurement is concerned, which corresponds to the K. If you solve this equation, then for a 1000 Dalton molecular weight, the ion takes about 28 microseconds to travel a distance of 1.5 meter of the drift-free zone of the time of flight tube. 1.5 meter, it takes about 28 microseconds. If you substitute 4000 and solve this, you will get 56 microseconds. In other words, a molecular ion with a molecular weight of 1000 Dalton, in other words 1000 m by z value, will reach in about 28 microseconds the detector, whereas 4 times more molecular weight will take twice as long as the 1000 molecular weight. For example, 56 microseconds will be taken by a 4000 molecular weight compound, so it is twice as long, and so this ion will reach the detector faster, and this will reach about twice as long it takes for this ion to reach the mass spectrometry detector. So this essentially establishes a basic principle which is stated here. That is, ions with a smaller m by z value reach the detector faster. This is 28 microsecond for 1000 Dalton, compared to a larger ion, let us say 4000 Dalton, has twice as long to reach that particular detector of the same tube of 1.5 meters. So if you consider C60 molecular ion with a carbon 12 isotope is 720, and it is isotopomer will be having C59 of 12 and 1 C13. That will be 721 mass units. In a time of flight analyzer, there is one mass unit difference here. So that would essentially correspond to 721 by 720 to the square root, which is corresponding to 1.000694. So for a 2 meter tube, if you take the 720 molecular ion peak will take about 27 microseconds to reach the detector under a given set of condition, and 721 mass unit, that is the isotopomer, will take 27.684 microsecond. A difference of about 19 nanosecond is what is needed for the separation of these two ions in a flight tube of about 2 meter length. And this essentially illustrates the resolution of the mass spectrometry in terms of being able to separate masses of one mass unit difference by about 19 nanosecond difference in their time of flight time. Now let us look into some application of the MALDI spectrometry. Here some simulating hormones and several hormones are given as the mass spectrum of several hormones are given. These are all recorded under MALDI condition. For example, angiotensin, bradykinin, these are molecular weight of the order of 1046 and 1060, and 150 femtomolar concentration is what is injected, and the molecular weight 1046 is recorded here, 1060 is recorded here for this particular compound, and this is luteinizing hormone releasing hormone. This is another hormone with a molecular weight of 1182, and about 127 femtomolar concentration is what is injected in the MALDI spectrometer to obtain this particular spectrum. Similarly, for bombacin and melanocyte stimulating hormone, the spectrum is given here, and this is a adrenocorticophoric hormone. There is another hormone with a molecular weight of 2465. That spectrum is also shown. So essentially indicating that medium sized molecules are fairly readily analyzed by the MALDI spectrometry using the time of flight analyzer as the. This is a mixture of these derivatives that is injected together, indicating that there is a possibility to form molecular complexes of two. In other words, the protein ligand complex can also be formed under these conditions, resulting in the formation of certain molecular adducts which could be detected here. Now, if you take the tyrosine cholecytokinin, this is a particular biomolecular system, and this has a molecular weight of 1141 or 1061. If it is a desulfated molecule, it is 1061. If it is a protonated deprotonated system, it is 1141. So if you look at the positive ion mass spectrum, it is the desulfated ion that has the prominence in the positive ion mass spectrometry, whereas in the case of the negative ion mass spectrometry, the deprotonated species is what is seen as 1114. So this essentially illustrates the use of MALDI spectrometry, atmospheric pressure MALDI spectrometry, in the positive ion mode as well as in the negative ion mode. In the positive ion mode, you get the desulfated system as the major peak, whereas in the negative ion mode, the deprotonated molecule is what is seen as the base peak in this case. These are molecules which are considered to be graphene analogues. In other words, graphene is a monolayer of graphite, for example. These are all model compounds which is supposed to mimic the property of the graphene. So the synthesis and the characterization of this class of molecule has been undertaken by a number of groups, particularly by the group of Klaus Mullen at the Max Planck Institute for Polymer Forschung. The large number of this class of molecules have been synthesized. One of the ways to analyze this molecule to use to record the MALDI mass spectrum of these compounds. This particular sample has a molecular formula of C44H18. It is not a very large molecule. Nevertheless, the molecular ion peak can be seen as 545 here, and the isotope abundance peak can also be seen as 546, 547 and so on, as a cluster of peaks in the molecular ion region where R is equal to hydrogen. The same molecule when R is equal to tertiary butyl is shown here. The isotope abundance peaks are shown for the molecular ion region. So essentially the cluster of peaks that you see in the molecular ion region corresponds to the M+, M+1, M+2 and so on. And this is a unit resolution mass spectrum of the same compound is shown here. This is a fairly large molecule. Molecular weight is fairly high, 9624 in this particular case. The molecular formula is C720H966. It's basically a hydrocarbon molecule containing only carbon and hydrogen with this molecular formula with a molecular weight of 9624. MALDI spectrometry clearly tells a peak around 9624, indicating the formation of this particular molecule, which is a large molecular system, synthetic molecule, where hexabenzocornene has been connected to the central. This is like a starburst kind of a molecular system is what is investigated here. This is a molecule that was synthesized in our own laboratory. This has a large hydrocarbon with a molecular formula of C102H62. Because this has a large number of acetylenic units, the number of hydrogen is much less than the earlier example. For molecular weight is 1286. What you see is a protonated species. So M plus H plus is what is seen as the 1289 peak of this molecule with 4 pyrene units attached to the spindle kind of a molecule that is shown here. These are tetraethynyl pyrene derivatives, and these derivatives are analyzed by MALDI spectrometry. In MALDI spectrometry, not only the molecular ion peak is seen, the resolution is good enough to see the M+1 ion as well as the M+2 ion in these cases. The molecular weight of this compound is 602. So you see 602, 603 and 604. When there is a hydroxy functional group in the form of a CH2OH is attached here, the molecular weight is 418. So you see 418, 419 and 420. So this is R is equal to phenyl derivative, and this is R equal to CH2OH derivative. The R groups are mentioned in this diagram here. Earlier in the electrospray ionization mass spectrometry, we saw some examples of analysis of polyethylene glycol. This can also be done by MALDI mass spectrometry. This is a polyethylene glycol with a molecular weight of 4000. Now remember, when we analyze the molecular ion peak of the 4000 molecular weight polyethylene glycol, in the case of electrospray ionization mass spectrometry, several protonated species with a charge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 6 charges have been recorded. However, in the MALDI spectrum, a singly protonated system is what is seen here, corresponding to a molecular weight of about 4000 nominal molecular weight, which corresponds to the molecular weight of this polyethylene glycol. With a higher molecular weight of the polyethylene glycol with a 20,000 molecular weight, for example, the resolution is fairly poor in this particular case. This is a fairly well resolved spectrum where you can see the individual molecular weights of the oligomers, whereas here the individual oligomers are not resolved. You just essentially get a Gaussian type of an envelope for the entire molecular weight distribution of the polyethylene glycol of this sample. Now this book is a good source of information for generally for mass spectrometry, particularly for electrospray ionization mass spectrometry as well as MALDI mass spectrometry, by Jürgen Gross mass spectrometry textbook published in 2004. So what we have seen in this module is the application of electrospray ionization mass spectrometry for the analysis of TLC plates, then introduction to MALDI mass spectrometry, the basic principle, the principle behind the time of a flight analyzer of the MALDI mass spectrometry, and some examples of various compounds being analyzed by MALDI spectrometry. Thank you for your attention.